So decided to build up another hardtail, and this is part one. So welcome, part one. This is the Hello Dave build. It's going to be done over a couple of parts, but essentially this is the beginning. So we're having a look at the frame, we're checking out for any defects that are possible in the frame, any marks that would mean we'll have to return it for another. I'm also going to show you how to install the bottom bracket, give you the dimensions for that as well, so you choose the right bottom bracket for the frame. And we're also going to be installing the rear hanger as part of this. So stick around. Hopefully it's informative for some people that have decided they want to build up a frame from scratch, or maybe it's an interest to you. It might put you off by the time we're at the end, but I will keep it as simple as possible. So if you've got any questions, just let me know in the comments below. It helps other people as well. It might be a question that others are thinking but don't ask. So don't be afraid, get in contact if there's anything you're stuck with. But apart from that, enjoy the series and let me know what you think of the bike at the very end as well. So let's go. I have the hanger and Allen key bolt that goes through. So this connects up to the back end. Move it into position. And then Allen key bolt obviously goes through. It is a 3mm head on it, so you're going to need a matching Allen key to obviously get in there. Make sure it's a good fitting one. Don't want it to be loose, you don't want to be rounding it off straight away your brand new bike frame. So you'll notice that I'm just using the long part connected in and just the little elbow here. That way I can't put too much pressure on. So I'm just giving it a tweak up and that'll hold it nice and steady there. And now what I want to try as well is the rear axle while we're at it. So what I want to do is push it through and make sure it is in a line with both ends, so both dropouts, if you like, or the old terminology. But you want to make sure that there's no binding. As you can see, I'm doing this up by hand. Now, I'm not wanting to wrench this closed because obviously there's a bolt. I could pull this in and actually bend the rear stays because there's no rear hub in there taking up the play. But I just want to make sure that it's going to go through, that there's no problems with the threads. It's a nice clean connection. And again, this through axle for the rear 12mm comes with the frame, so for me, I'm happy. It all lines up nicely. So now I'm going to look at putting and installing in the bottom bracket. The one that I'm using is a Saints bottom bracket. I'd like to say that I spent ages researching, going through various reviews and choosing it, but I just had it kicking about in my shed and it's the right size. So this is a Holotech 2, and what you're going to need for this side on the drive side is you're going to need one spacer. So it's a 2.5mm spacer. The kit comes with it, and you want to make sure that you have the correct side. So marked on the outside shell is the side, so R for the right side of the bike, which is the drive side. So you want to be putting on your spacer, so when that goes in and tightens up, the chain line is going to be perfect for you, and also it's the right diameter or the right width, if you like, for the crankset that's going in here. So we're going to do that, but first I want to put a little bit of copper slip in here. Just get a load of it on your finger and we're just going to mix it around onto that thread. It does a couple of things. It assists getting the bottom bracket tight on without too much resistance. It's a little bit of a weather seal as well, takes up the play, but it should also stop any creaks that might materialize between the frame and the outer shell of the bottom bracket. So nicely coated there. So as we're starting on the drive side, we've got our spacer installed, like I said, but what you've got to pay attention to is the direction that you're going to be turning. So to tighten this down even, you're going to be going reverse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go the normal way first while I'm pushing in the weight, and I'm feeling for that drop, which means it's sitting perfectly on the threads. Turning in an anti-clockwise direction, you can see it can be turned on by hand. If there's any more resistance than that with grease in place, then you might be cross threading, so it might be worth taking back out and attempting again. And you'll get to a point like now. So these bottom brackets have a little bit of thread lock tape or something to that effect has been pre-installed into it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the tool on, so I've got a wee bit extra leverage. Make sure it is fully inserted back, all the way back into the teeth, and then we're just going to continue turning. Now it's better if you have, for this particular frame anyway, if you had a socket tool instead, so one that encompasses the whole bottom bracket. But I just have this spanner, and we're just going to continue with that. We start feeling resistance. So there I know that we're now tight enough that it's tightened up against the face of the frame. So I'm just going to turn it maybe another 1/8 of a turn, and I know that that's torquing right up there. And that should be plenty tight. They recommend between 30 Newton meters and 50 Newton meters. If I had a socket type adapter, then I would use a torque wrench on it, but to be honest, for the years that I've done bike maintenance, I've only done it by hand. And we're just spun ourselves around to the other side to put the other cup in. Now this cup is turned in the correct direction, if you like, so it turns to the right clockwise in order to tighten up. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it in the way as I turn in the opposite direction, so like in the loosening direction, and I'm keeping going until I feel it click down the way, and then I know that I'm perfectly on the thread. There, so it just drops. So from there, if I turn it, there's a feeling of it dropping forward, so I know that I'm correctly on the thread and I'm not going to be reverse threading. So again, we're just going to hand tighten this on. I'm just giving it a tweak up, and I know for certain that that'll do me. I'm just going to clean off all of my grubby greasy marks from handling. It does get everywhere. What I'm not going to do is touch the inside. There's pre-packed grease already in this kit, which I don't want to affect, because the shaft for the crank arms will go through there, and that will keep them sealed and lubricated and stop any creaking as well. So give it a good clean down. And here we have the fully installed now bottom bracket. So just to recap, it is a 73mm standard BSA thread. So nothing spectacular about it, pretty much standard now throughout the industry. I've went for the Holotech 2, but again, you could have chose GXP if you already have a crankset and bottom bracket set to go. You could also use a new dub system as well if need be. Shimano obviously continuing with theirs, so lots of options there. Lots of aftermarket companies as well, like Hope and Raceface, will do your bottom brackets to match obviously their cranksets. So important thing is really pick the bottom bracket that's going to fit the frame, which is an easy one, but also fit your crankset. If it doesn't fit your crankset, there's no point. So that's it for this part. We've done the frame prep, we've had a look at the bottom bracket install and the options that go with it. We've checked the rear alignment for the axle, making sure that the thread is connecting correctly, there's no cross threading, no machining issues, and also alignment as well. So I'll see you in part 2, where we're going to put the headset together and we're going to install the forks and the bars and the stem. So basically the front end of the bike is going to go together. So join me then.